So we're starting on our series on a Topfuel rear wing. These things run 330 miles an hour in 1,000 foot and produce over 5,000 pounds of downforce. But while I was checking this thing out, I noticed there was a couple issues. I'm going to show you, first of all, this back rear element. It bolts onto the main element and it's adjustable up and down so you can change the pitch of it. Right here, this carbon fiber surrounds this aluminum bracket that comes up off of the main element, and it's attached by 2 bolts. When I was putting this thing together, I looked at the hardware that was being used, and it was a button head Allen, but the thing is, it's fully threaded. You never want to put threads up against aluminum on a bolt that's holding something in place. You can see here where that aluminum's actually been rubbing on that bolt. Taking a closer look here, you can actually see where it looks like it's threaded, but that's just where the threads have been, pushed up against it and created a thread. So I looked around the shop and I couldn't find a button head that actually had a shoulder. Matter of fact, hell, I don't even know if they're made. I couldn't find a 12-point headed, which would probably fit in there. Then I can use like a 5/16 socket on it to tighten it up, but I couldn't find that either. But I did find these hex head grade 8 bolts. I'm like, man, the shoulder length on these things are perfect, but it's not going to fit inside this hole, and you're damn sure not going to put a socket on it. And if you guys know me, I like a good challenge. Yeah, I could probably order some bolts and do all that kind of thing, but hey, I've got these laying around, and I got the tools. I can do this. So I open up Bobcam, and I know there's guys out there saying, oh man, we don't like Bobcam, blah, 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 whatever. I use it. It works okay for me. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that hex, I'm going to make it a circle, and then I'm going to put a hex for an Allen in the middle. So you have to figure out how you're going to hold this bolt in a vise and then mill it, So I come up with this block. I got it double step. I'll put some threads in the bottom of it. Probably put a shoulder deal on top to hold it straight. So this is kind of how the sequence is going to go. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to come surface the top of it, get something nice and flat. Then we're going to come around the hex. I know my stock looks like it's a circle, but it's actually a hex. We'll come around the sides of it and make it a circle. Then once we do that, we're going to come in with a center drill, make 6 little holes for a 62 thousandths drill bit, which are going to be the corners of the hex itself. We'll drill those 6 holes approximately 110 thousandths deep, and then we're going to take a 3/32 end mill and come in and finish out the inside of that hex. Once we're done with that, we're going to take a chamfer mill. We're going to chamfer the hex a little bit and the outside of the bolt head. So there's 2 programs, one for the fixture piece and then one for the bolt head itself. So right now I'm just working on the fixture piece. We're going to come in and surface it, and like I said, we're going to 2-step drill it, and then we're going to tap it. So I'm coming back in, I'm just chasing the threads on it. I'm going to check the fitment for the bolt. That shoulder is real tight because I want to hold that bolt tight, from going back and forth. Found a nice little spacer for it, and it looks like it's going to work just fine. So now I'm just setting up all my tools for the next program, which we're going to machine the head. I load the tools in the carousel, and we start machining this thing. I'll show you a quick time lapse of all the machine processes, but what I'm going to do here next, I'm going to break it down for you real quickly. So we go in here, we surface it, and then 1/2 end mill comes around it, and we make a circle out of it. Kind of looks like this. Now we got a nice flat area we can come down with the center drill. So the center drill comes down, and we put those 6 starter holes in the top of it, preparing it for the 0.62 diameter drill bit. And you got to be careful. The bolt's pretty hard. These things are pretty small, and it's overlapping on the holes. Next thing is we'll come in with that end mill, and we're going to finish out that hex. And man, does it sound nasty when you're doing it. It sounds like it's going to break the end mill clear off this thing. So once that's done, this is what it kind of looks like. You can actually look like you can shove an Allen in this thing. So our next step is we're going to get the old chamfer mill out. I used a 60 degree because I needed a nice little point on it. And we're going to come in here and just put a slight chamfer on that hex and the outside of that bolt head. So I grab an Allen, and man, I tell you what, it's a pretty nice fit. I was kind of surprised. You know, it's a little bit of a process to make a hex and a bolt. I think, you know, they broach them or whatever, you know, when they're new. But, you know, one thing I found out on these hex bolts, they're not all centered perfectly, the hex onto the shank. You know, when you're machining, I guess, in thousandths and things like that. But here's the fit. How's that, man? Flush, aerodynamic. We'll come out on this other side and we'll just knock the threads off this thing and make it a perfect length for a nice locking jet nut on that other side. If you guys like videos like this and you want to see things like this, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.